Formula One's car launch season is usually one of the more anticipated and unpredictable times of the year, especially nowadays when we all know that Max Verstappen will win everything anyway. Although recently they've suffered from a bit of a problem, in that they're not really car launches anymore. Nowadays we're subjected to 45 minutes of a generic white man NPC explaining something. I'll be honest, like the rest of you, I sort of zone out for that bit, only to be shown a new livery rather than the actual car itself. This used to annoy me, but now we've had this for a few years, I've just sort of grown to accept it. Even in the old days, the car that was unveiled on launch day would look completely different by the opening round of the season anyway, so why kid ourselves? But that's not even the problem in focus anymore. You see, the new livery launches have a new issue, which has been even more prominent in 2024. They're not really liveries, are they? As more and more cars are revealed, we're noticing a growing trend of them being left mostly unpainted for the sole purpose of saving weight, leaving us with bare carbon chassis with a few stickers if we're lucky. Before we get to the fix, it's time for a quick history lesson, and before that, it's time to say a big thank you to Combo Cleaner for sponsoring this video. Just like Christian Horner's office, the internet can be a dangerous place. 560,000 new pieces of malware are discovered every day, and it's suspected over 1 billion programs exist out there. That makes it all the more important to keep your devices safe, and that's where Combo Cleaner comes in. Combo Cleaner is an antivirus application for Android, iPhone, Mac and Windows that keeps your computer or phone free from malware, whilst also cleaning up your device, deleting duplicate files to save you precious storage space in the long run. It does this through constant live updates and a real-time malware scanner, which detect those new malicious sources I mentioned earlier and prevents even the latest viruses from harming your device. Downloading it is incredibly simple. Just head over to their easy-to-use website and select the package you're after, all of which including a fully featured Combo Cleaner Premium app with daily virus definition updates and those powerful disk cleaning utilities I just talked about. The guys over there are giving you a great opportunity in the form of an 80% discount for the Mac and Windows version of the software, which you can access by heading down to the link in the description and using the code FP180 at checkout. Combo Cleaner is the most comprehensive and complete utilities application, and it's all you'll ever need from now on to keep your devices virus and clutter free. So be sure to check out that link below, and a big thank you to Combo Cleaner for sponsoring this video. Now onto that history lesson. Formula One cars have gradually been getting heavier for decades now. The machines in the mid-90s came to just over 500 kilograms, including the driver, plus a little more in Nigel Mansell's case. This was up to 600 kilograms by the early 2000s, with a huge jump to 722 kg for the new regulations in 2017, where it was clear that F1 saw this as a problem, given they were quoting the weight of the F1 car without a driver or tyres. Last season saw this figure rise once again to just shy of 800 kilos, this time including the boffin in the driver's seat, and as much as fans have been crying for this number to be brought back down, realistically that can't happen. While today's cars are significantly larger than their counterparts from only a decade ago, much of this has been necessitated by the need to include heavier and safer crash structures, and as much as I'd like to see a return to the light and agile cars of the early noughties era, we can't do that at the expense of safety. Future technology may well allow us to produce lighter structures that meet the same requirements, but we aren't in the future yet, so we'll have to make do with what we've got. Returning to the present, and despite the weight limit being further increased in recent years, teams were still struggling to make their cars legal prior to the season, with Alfa Romeo the only ones confident that they could meet the requirement in 2022. Didn't stop them being though, did it? Teams therefore had to decide which parts to remove from their cars, and this is where the issue of paint comes in. With it carrying no aerodynamic advantage, it would be the first on the chopping block. Stripping back paint is nothing new in the sports. Hell, go back to the 1950s when Mercedes stripped away their silver coating to try and gain any advantage they could over their rivals, a story that the team of course chose to hark back to in their nightmare Germany weekend in 2019. The McLarens of the late 2000s and early 2010s also spent a lot of research into finding a lighter formula for their iconic chrome paint, and more recently we've seen teams resort to matte liveries or even glorified stickers to replace the old gloss finishes we used to see. Stripping the liveries back to pure carbon though has been going on for a little longer than most realise. The first components to fall were the bargeboard areas around 2018. The Halo was another popular device not to get paint, given it was such a pain in the ass to implement onto the car weight-wise anyway. These changes largely went unnoticed by the fans, until of course the new regulations rolled around and F1 outfits started to get ridiculous with it. By 2022, the front and rear wings were being left bare by a lot of the teams, with McLaren the first to expose significant parts of carbon when they stripped the orange off their engine cover prior to the first race of the season. Many thought this actually improved what was already a pretty gopping livery, it has to be said. But 1 year later, teams started upping the ante once again. Haas the main offender here, Gene's budget seemingly only good enough to paint half of their 2023 Challenger. Mercedes, McLaren and Alfa Romeo followed suit, with every team in some regards stripping as much as they thought they could get away with. Ferrari, I think, being the strangest interpretation of this. Like, what exactly are they thinking here? Actually, why are we bothering to analyse Ferrari's thinking? 2024 has seen an even more radical take on these carbon liveries, and while the backlash was fairly contained last season, this time around the fans have been rather more vocal on the matter. So let's pause for a moment and work out, is this actually a problem in the first place? Okay, pause over. Yes, it is. Allow me to explain why. Formula One teams, well, most Formula One teams have what we call an identity. They may throw about 50 million shady sponsors around that identity in this day and age, but the Aramco cognizant Aston Martin Formula One team is still clearly Stroll Grand Prix. The name is obviously a big part of that identity, but so is the colour scheme, and a unique one at that. Ferrari we always associate with red, Williams with blue, and so on. When teams start to introduce carbon into that colour scheme, the identities get a bit more muddled, and while established fans of the sport can tell you what cars are Mercedes, what cars are Ferrari, and what car should run over Helmut Marko, newer and younger fans will struggle to tell the teams apart, leading to all-round confusion. Basically what F1 Twitter is now, but a whole lot worse. With the sport seemingly entering a bit of a slump after some fantastic growth prior to 2023, fixing this before it becomes an even bigger issue should be higher up on F1's list than ever, rather than adding a billion new street tracks and finding new ways to tell Andretti to get fucked. The good news is there's a fairly easy solution, and one that the sport have, sort of, implemented before. Firstly, it's important to establish that just increasing the weight limit further wouldn't work. Now Pandora's box has been opened with these carbon liveries, teams will just use the extra allowance to add more components to their cars instead. Equally, removing the weight of the livery from the maximum stated in the regulations isn't practical either, given teams will still strip down to improve performance, and that would be logistically impossible to measure anyway. Instead, the clear way forward is to specify which areas of the car need to be painted, and something like this could very easily be implemented mid-season, as we saw back in 2017. The new regulations for that season saw the return of the shark fin behind the airbox. Some teams had integrated this better than others, but early on into the year, F1 realised that this space could be better utilised, and used to fix a problem that the sport had been suffering from for a while up to this point. Here's a picture of a 2004 Ferrari. Now, can you tell me what number's on the front? It's fairly hard to tell, isn't it? Now admittedly, I've deliberately selected an image which sort of proves my point, but hey, at least I didn't use this one. Distinguishing who was driving each car was becoming a bit of a problem for both commentators and fans of the circuit. And given that since 2014, drivers have been able to select a number for themselves and integrate that into their marketing, there was so much untapped potential here. The sport therefore rushed in new regulations mid-season that mandated larger numbers on the cars, and for the shark fin to either display this or the driver's three-letter initials. The change was a resounding success, and the rules have been implemented onto cars ever since, so it'd be very easy to carry out a similar directive this year. At the end of the day, I think it will all come down to what the cars look like when they hit the track in testing, just how hard it is to really tell them apart. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on all this, so do let me know down in the comments section below. If you're new here and enjoyed the video, why not consider subscribing? I upload F1 and IndyCar content every week, so feel free to tag along for the ride. A huge thank you also goes out to my patrons and channel members, especially Jason Welch and Friendly Dragon who joined after the last video. They got access to this one early, so if you want to help support the channel, the relevant links are down in the description below. I'll be back soon with another video, but until then, have a good one.